This is Jocko Podcast number 74 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
Now, I always dug music, and I'm pretty sure it started when my dad would play Hank Williams Sr. on the 8-track in his, I think it was a 1971 Barracuda. And he'd play that tape just over and over again. And I still know those songs by heart. And then, that was when I was a little kid. And then I got a little bit older. And like a lot of kids, all of a sudden I was listening to the Beatles.
Sure.
Elvis. Thought they were great. I still think that song, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, is a good song. But that wore out kind of quickly. And there was something wasn't there in that music. Something just wasn't quite there. The music didn't sound how I felt. And then in 1980, AC/DC Back in Black came out, and it was popular, right? It was popular.
Yeah.
And so it went into my ears at some point. And I said, dang, all right, better, closer,
Sure.
warmer, we're getting there. And then I watched around in the hard rock for a while. Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, and I can't help throwing on a little Jack Black when I say that, if you watch that tribute that he did to them. And that, some of the kids that I hung around with in New England, they rode that train down to hippiedom. We're talking Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and Janis Joplin, and the Grateful Dead, and all that. I couldn't relate. Wasn't there. Didn't get there. Didn't seem to reflect the world that I was beginning to see myself. I got on the other train, right? Sure. And we're talking about Van Halen. Yes, this is the 1980s. If you were a kid in America, age 13, we got issued the album 1984 by Van Halen. That was just a given. You were going to get that. Got issued Diver Down. Boom, you need to listen to this. This is rock and roll, people. This is Eddie Van Halen. Listen to that guitar solo. Eruption. Listen again. Do it again. Iron Maiden, right? Actual song called Trooper. You got to listen to that when you're a kid. And so now I'm heading in the right direction. I'm feeling it. Starting to reflect what things are like in my head. And then there was that day where I got an album called Black Sabbath by a band called Black Sabbath. And the first song is also called Black Sabbath. And I put that on. And boom, I had found something that sounded like I was thinking. And from there, I was definitely on the right train. Then it was Motorhead. And soon after, the Ramones. Boom. And then that leads to the Sex Pistols. Because you're just going harder. That's what you're doing. That's what I was doing. Like, what's a little bit harder than that? What's a little bit harder than that? Sex Pistols, Bodies. No feelings. They're singing songs, no feelings. Okay. I hear what you're saying. Louder, more anger. And then finally we get to Black Flag. My War, Side 2. Still one of my all-time favorites. Minor Threat. Get a hold of another little band from DC called the Bad Brains. Some Detroit hardcore Negative Approach. And then, so I was kind of in the game, right? Sure. I was there. Mm-hmm. And so now 87 rolls around. And one of my friends, who is actually more of a metalhead at this time, he gives me a cassette tape, because this was back in the day when you were just going to have to listen to cassette tapes, and they were usually dubbed 47 times from somebody else. But this was the real tape, man. This was the real deal. This was an actual original with the full cover on it and everything. And the cover of this tape was just a giant mushroom cloud of death and destruction. And above the mushroom cloud, in large Old English script blazing across the top, it said, Cro-Mags. Okay. And then underneath the mushroom cloud, in a little bit smaller script in Old English, it said, The Age of Quarrel. Okay. So I put it in my tape deck.
Sure.
And I pressed play. And the first track, it hit me like a train. And the first track was called We Gotta Know. And let me just tell you the lyrics.
Sure.
Struggling in the streets, just trying to survive. Searching for the truth just to keep us alive. Gotta break these shackles. Gotta break these chains. The only way we'll do it is if we use our brains. There's gotta be some meaning to the purpose of life. I know there must be more than the struggle and strife. Looking for the answers and I need a clue. But my mind is so disturbed now. What do I do? Now, I can tell you, I was not struggling in the streets. But like most teenage kids, I did feel some shackles, right? You feel the shackles of things. And I was looking for answers, and I needed a clue. And so I was like, yeah, we're on to something. The next title track had me a little worried, a little concerned, because, like I said, there was a lot of kids were taking the hippie route, and so I was not into that. The next song title had me a little concerned. The song was called World Peace. And so I was kind of, red flag.
Sure.
And then I listened to the lyrics. All you hippies better start to face reality. All your far-fetched dreams of anarchy better start to see things the way they are, because the way things are going, they won't be going far. World peace can't be done. It just can't exist. World peace can't be done. Anarchy is a mess. Okay.
Damn.
And the rest of the album kept up that assault on my brain, on my attitude, and that was it. I had found something called hardcore music. And I never really left it. And I listened to Cro-Mags and a ton of other hardcore bands from that time until now, and that's pretty much essentially the soundtrack of much of my life, and it had a pretty big influence on me, and it was an attitude that I kept throughout my life, and it was my own interpretation. I can tell you that right now. It was my own kind of, you listen to the lyrics and you kind of apply what it means in your world. That's what I did, which to me was pretty simple, because to me, hardcore meant hardcore. Sure. That's what it meant. It's pretty simple. Hardcore in everything you do. Work hard, be aggressive, don't back down, fight for what you believe in, hold the line. And that's kind of what I did in my life.